So we all had yesterday off. I'm not sure if you worked.
I had a choice to not work, but I had all these calls booked in, and I didn't realize that it was a bank holiday in the US, so I decided to still work. It's mad.
Honestly, I kind of like those days when there's nobody else working. It feels like you can get so much done.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a day to kind of like plow through work.
Yep.
We never met before, by the way.
You're right, we haven't.
We haven't met before.
I feel like I've talked to you. Yeah, it's been really fun kind of stepping in now that Faith is gone and doing all of this and getting to talk to everybody, because I feel like it's pretty limited to Slack and when I need something for marketing.
Of course.
So this has been a fun way to kind of get to talk to everybody.
I feel like you know a lot of people in the company more than anybody else. I feel like.
I probably do. And then at times, like we've added so many people to the team in the last few weeks that I feel like I'm way behind now. Especially I was out the last 2 weeks. So. Oh
yeah. How was your break?
It was great. We did a camping road trip up the East Coast, and went to Maine.
Oh wow.
Maine, New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia.
Nice.
So it was fun. We took the dogs with us, and we bought a new camper here, so it was our first long trip. And we had bank holiday yesterday.
Nice.
Garish, thanks for joining me today. We are going to talk about, on This Week in Tech History, Apple introducing the iBook. I'm not sure. I might be dating myself, but I definitely remember these coming out and being so excited about them. This was like my senior year of high school.
There's been a lot of speculation about this, a lot of rumors, and I get to end them today. We're going to introduce our consumer portable machine. So we've been working really hard on it, and I hope you like it. So we went to our customers. We went to our consumer and education customers and said, what do you want in a portable? What precisely is it that you want? And we listened very carefully. And when you added it all up, what they wanted was an iMac to go. They loved iMac, and they wanted an iMac to go. Could we make an awesome iMac to go? And we have done that, we hope. So first of all, what are we going to call it? Just so we have a name to refer it by.
On July 21st, 1999, Apple introduced the iBook, which was the first mass-produced consumer product that had built-in Wi-Fi connectivity. It was a major turning point that ushered in the modern era of wireless devices and had innovative features like an all-in-one design, clamshell shape, hidden hinges, accessible ports. All of those things kind of like set the bar for what computers are today. It came in cool colors, which for like obviously anything bright, I'm like, yes, let's do it. How bright can it get? Like they had the blueberry one, like that tangerine orange, sleek gray. They all looked so good. And they had built-in Bluetooth, which was cool. First time you could like kind of port things to it without having to have cables everywhere. On the wiki page about it, they had a picture of one of the iBooks, but still had a mouse plugged into it. You have all these features. You don't need the cable.
Yeah.
So, like I said, its most revolutionary feature was definitely that it had Wi-Fi, which meant that you could get Wi-Fi anywhere there was an access point. They cleverly branded this as the airport.
And we decided to go for it. And we are so excited about this. Airport wireless networking. It's a wireless LAN. It runs at 11 megabits per second. And it's based on industry standards. This is 802.11 wireless networking, and everybody is jumping on board with this thing over the next 6 to 9 months. So all sorts of devices are going to be able to interact with airports. We're just going to be there first and best.
It was initially marketed as an education device, but at the time, Apple had this kind of 4-box approach that they wanted to meet, where they had a desktop and portable computer for both the consumer and professional markets. So this kind of rounded it out. It helped popularize wireless internet and showed the world how convenient and easy it can be to access information and communicate remotely. It conditioned users to expect ready internet access at any time for most devices and applications, which set the stage for today's widespread use of Wi-Fi enabled phones, tablets, computers, watches. Millions of them. I mean, what can't you connect to the internet these days?
Yeah.
It also brought wireless connectivity to the masses and proved there was a demand for portable devices with always-on internet access. And it ultimately helped kickstart consumer trends towards wireless communication, which is something that today is like, it's everything.
Yeah.
When we went on this trip, the first 2 days we were just driving. So I worked from the car for 2 days.
Which is not thinkable those days when we look back.
No. I mean, Wi-Fi wasn't even really like widely used at that point.
Yeah.
We were a little bit past dialing up, but I don't think by much. I'm pretty sure at that point, like our computer still plugged into the wall, plugged into the Ethernet port. I think one of the interesting choices that they made was that making the consumer product the first one to have Wi-Fi over the professional product. I kind of wonder what their thinking was there.
It's a really interesting thought, because if you look back, like, why would you'll ask the same question, like, pros willing to pay it. Why would you not get the pros on it first thing?
Right.
If you look back, traditionally, office spaces always, when it became very modernized and like everybody started having internet on their desks, the way to get internet is to have a LAN cable running through your desk, and you always had a Ethernet port for a computer. This is my theory, right? Like the fact that every office space, definitely still today, you can go to WeWork and probably ask them for a cable and they will provide it for you. And it's like a setup, and it's a very normal thing in a modern office space setting. And the same at the home. So you can route your own into Ethernet and like get this to your desk. So for pro consumers, they always had the access per se for the Ethernet. So I think something revolutionary and very unique, which is Apple thing, I guess, right? Like they want to get something brand new onto the hands of everyday user. And like nobody who's working would sit in a lounge chair and just like browse internet. That's not a thing those days, I suppose. So I think having something detached from the Wi-Fi, detached from the, a traditional Ethernet cable is what people would need. I think Apple saw that very early on. I think Steve Jobs is this revolutionary, visionary guy. Thought maybe, hey, imagine if nobody's connected to the Ethernet, what it'd look like.
And I wonder if in building a product, like kind of gearing it towards educational use was one of the reasons, where it's easier to centralize Wi-Fi in a classroom.
Yeah.
It is to do it in like a large scale office setting.
It's a pretty cool idea as well. Like you get this whole network compatibility without like being threaded to something. So gave like a new wave of people to start using computers.
And I think it's also really interesting to think about like, how are you? I mean, there obviously was Wi-Fi at the time, but to be able to start integrating that into a product, that like the footprint of Wi-Fi at that point was very small compared to what it is now. Like with a hotspot, you can have Wi-Fi literally anywhere you can get a phone signal. So I think it was an interesting choice that they like put so much development into that, knowing that Wi-Fi at that point had such a small footprint.
One of the cool things is their innovation, like that one more thing. I saw the video where Steve Jobs was announcing the iBook. It's pretty interesting. And the last one more thing was this airport device that like, which is like the thing you set up in your house. It's pretty cool because like, you would not necessarily have any sort of router functionality that's Wi-Fi ready at that time. So when Apple were to introduce it for consumers, it was everybody's going to adopt it, or people are going to consider having that. And they have this interesting TV ad that makes it look like a spaceship coming to you and stuff like that. It's pretty interesting for those audience when you look at it and people don't have vision for what a Wi-Fi would look like. It was an innovative and novel idea at that time, so it's pretty cool.
And to be able to to develop that airport system and say, like, we already have a solution. So it wasn't just enabling the thing to have Wi-Fi, it was enabling consumers to get Wi-Fi in the first place.
Wi-Fi.
Since we never, if we didn't have that in our house.
Yeah. The thing about this is that today nobody buys Apple Express or that device anymore because Apple doesn't sell it.
Right.
So it was very relevant at that time when it came out. So it was pretty novel, and they were just selling it as a whole package. Even like these laptops never came out of the box with Wi-Fi. So you have to buy this card, you need to slot it in. It's an optional addition. But people bought it with the Wi-Fi setting, and they bought the whole kit.
Yeah. Like, we made this Wi-Fi enabled, but you also have to get the Wi-Fi card and the Wi-Fi port.
Yeah.
Which I think has also been kind of the trend that Apple has followed throughout the years, where like they're doing something really innovative, but it's not always. I'm thinking of like them removing the headphone jack from the iPhone. So it was, when they did that, it was like, well, you have to buy the special adapter if you want to use corded headphones.
They always try to come up with this interesting solution, like, oh, we're going to do something unique, but these are the caveats to it. So if you look at like when Apple decided, oh, it's our courage, we're going to take the headphone, plug off for the iPhones, they started selling AirPods, which was like the best seller when it came out. And then right now, the best seller is the, what they call it, Apple tags, AirTags. Which is like getting the most popularity, and like the whole Find My feature and everybody integrating to it is like a new thing. Like Apple always comes up with like solving problems very uniquely, and they try to take over the new space and own the old space too. If they didn't decide not to do the headphones, probably they would never sell AirPods as much. Well, it's a controversial question.
And I think that, like, obviously I love good branding and good marketing. And I think a part of that is like, a part of what makes Apple so successful in these things is like, we're not just doing something innovative. We're not just doing something that is going to change the market. We're selling like a kind of like selling the image, selling the good design, selling like, this is how we're going to make your life easier with this. We did an episode on the iPhone already, and I don't use iPhones. I don't really like them. I'm like, I know, I'm like Android all the way, but I still have AirPods.
Yeah,
because those are for the size, the sound, the design is super easy. It's very portable. They've sold me on that.
Yeah, it's a really cool tech. I think Apple comes up with these novel solutions. Like, traditionally, if you were to buy headphones, you need to manually connect it. I don't know whether it's still the same if you were to use Android, but I think what I really like about the Apple's product line, especially headphone line, is that it automatically connects to your phone or your laptop. So you just bring it next to it, which is like pretty cool. And they had to build a chip for it and like make it like, friendly enough to kind of like track and all of that. So it's pretty overkill for a design for like that, but that's actually, it solves like the headache of like, oh, where's my Bluetooth? I need to unplug, I need to disconnect and disconnect it back again. Takes all that time off from you, and it's like a cool experience. I think if you look back, that's kind of what they were trying to achieve with the airport utility thing with the laptop at the iBook at the time. So it was pretty nice. Like the philosophy of what Steve Jobs kind of set, it kind of carries on even till today. And I think that's what's going to happen with the Vision Pro too as well. It's pretty cool.
Where can you take wireless tech that isn't even, like, have we even explored the frontiers, or do we just think we have? It's very easy these days to be like always on. Because now Wi-Fi enabled devices are everywhere. What does the future of that look like? Like, how can you go further from like always having access? So I think it'll be really interesting to see, like you're saying, with the Vision Pro, all these new frontiers of Wi-Fi enabled devices, and what they do for us, how they help improve our ability to communicate, get things done, and experience things. And
if you looked at the TV ad for Vision Pro, there was this baby celebrating its birthday. I think I don't know how old it is, but the dad was like wearing this big headset on his face, and he was like interacting with the buddy event. Like, it was like pretty absurd, and like, hey, it's is that going to be the norm tomorrow? But historically, if you look back, that's kind of what we did in video cameras when we had to pull it up and just bring it up on a face. So it was like such a interesting transformation to where it might go in the future as well. So I can't wait. I'm always excited for what's coming and how that impacts our society and like how humans interact with those computers.
Because I think that like on the whole, people still want the human element preaching our business practices right now. But it's like, you know, we work here because we think that the human element is super important. You know, like you said, like when we were kids, it was always somebody with a camcorder, and then the camcorders got smaller and smaller. What really just made it easier for you to be present while still using technology to like capture those moments, to relive them down the road.
I think I see that in my gun work too as well. Like one of the things we do in DevRel is like, hey, I always say this pitch to people when I speak to them, especially new candidates who are joining into the platforms. Like, hey, you might use this platform, but you're not dealing with robots. Everything is kind of manual. We use it to scale. So the platform exists for us to scale. Like, so 5 people can do the job very effectively. But I think what matters for me and also for all the DevRel team is the meaningful connections we have with people, the developers, you know, who are in the platform. I personally take time to kind of like learn their story and like why they want to join Gun and all of that. So I see a lot of that. And there's that human element. That's kind of what makes me be part of Gun in some sense too as well. So that human element where we care, you know, we genuinely like want to know your story and really care for you to be having a good experience in our platform. So
it's more than running your resume through an ATS.
Yeah, that's true. And I think some developers you see in the platform just trying to apply to every single job they get. It's just like, hey, I'm thinking it's a robot. No, I said, like, I speak to some developers. It's like, dude, you're actually speaking to us, and every application has been read by us, and we know that you're applying to every single job. So it's at the same time, don't treat us, it's a robot, you know, it's like we are people. So talk to us, and like we have Slack where the community forum can chat to and stuff like that. So I think all of that can make a really cool experience. And there is always a learning curve for all of us as well, right? Like even for DevRel teams, we have a lot to learn, and we want to modernize our experience at the same time, be like human as close to possible.
Yeah.
You see that translating in tech in other areas too, like how human can it be at the same time be like tech in the front. So it's always an interesting challenge to be solving.
And you bring up a good point, you know, when you say somebody is just applying to every job because they think it's a robot. Like, we've been kind of conditioned at this point to think that like everything is being run by computers and robots, and because everything has internet and you always have access to it, you should be responding right away. There's just an expectation that you're always available. I don't know. It was really like being up in Maine, we had no service. We had car troubles with my 4-year-old truck, and wound up having to get it towed to a dealership. But we were somewhere where the most you could do was send out a single text message. So you couldn't send a group messages, and you could make phone calls. It was incredibly humbling because I'm used to like, why shouldn't I have internet? Yeah, it was really humbling to have to like really go old school because we were both so used to always having everything at our fingertips. Having that access is good and bad. We still got everything taken care of, which showed to me, you know, you don't have to always have the most information available to get something done.
I think we have this human instincts of survival, figuring things out. And like that kicks in when you realize that the default, we have two character traits. Like one, like let's be as lazy as we can, get everything possible. So if we have
Yeah.
Google Maps, we're going to use every single way and find
Yep.
optimized routes to get to a location where we need to get to. But when we don't have it, we just become this alert mode, like where we are scanning the street signs and like being very cautious. And I think that's our human nature, I suppose, right? Like we tend to default on things which we are very comfortable with. And when we don't,
Yep.
or when you're not comfortable, and it kind of like pulls you into it, it's like even pandemic, like, the fact that it happened and like everybody has to be online and like be present because there's nothing else to do. Like you can watch TV, all right, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But then you still have to come back to your computer to get your work done. Most of the people who can work online did the best they could to work online, and they were always connected. And I see, so I was like with this company based in the US. I was in the UK working with them. And I see most of the team members are always online on Slack. It's like, hey guys, what are you doing? It's just mad. It's people love to be connected at the same time. Like there was nothing else to do. So I think now that the pandemic is gone, there is that lingering behavior. You tend to see that a lot with people being connected. And it's all like thanks to Wi-Fi and all these internet advancements we had to kind of be that connected. But at the same time, it's a behavioral change we had in people too. Like everything kind of like opened up new ways. Like once upon a time, closing a business deal online. It's different in the US, but in the UK, we are pretty old school. We love to meet people, build that trust, and then like, hey, you know what? Let's close a business deal. But I'm seeing a lot more now that like people are opening and closing contracts online, 100%, which just like makes us more like connected and like all the efforts live off computer. Sometimes I wonder like, what's it like? Hey, I can take my brain and attach to a CPU or something, like just go do my day. Because literally I'm paid for my brain power. It's like a knowledge worker kind of thing, right? It's just a new thought. So it's like very interesting, like how that's actually changed our way of working today. And also like, it's only going to get better and bigger in that area. I think in DevRel team, one point I would say is that like we try harder, at least my team, like we try harder to kind of be asynchronous because we are on different time zones. We don't want to be always online as much as possible. It's not, I think we are conditioned to think like the more hours you work, the more online you are, the better and cooler you're performing, which is awesome. Like I think that's a good analogy, but at the same time, people need rest and we all need to like work at a different pace. So we try to follow this culture called asynchronous culture. I mentioned this in my first podcast with you guys as well. So it's like the way asynchronous culture works is that you choose your hours, you choose how you want to work, but as long as the work gets done, it's not as simple as that, but it's mostly like structuring your work and having some disciplines around it and saying boundaries.
Yep.
And that way you can be very happy at your work and also like, very happy at your personal life, which you need to give time to as well.
And what a great thing that like the internet makes that possible now. You don't have to necessarily line up your hours with somebody else to get something done. Or, like I really like writing early in the morning when nobody else is working.
Yeah.
So it can bother me. And I think, like I think that culture has really been beneficial for people with families. We don't have kids, but I see, the ability for other parents in the company to say, like, hey, I'm going to take the afternoon off and go watch my kids play. If there's an emergency, you're always connected. There's Slack and email on phone. I forgot to turn off my work email until like halfway through the trip, and I was like, why do I keep looking at this?
Yeah, you're right. It's a really interesting pace of life we are in right now. Even like our podcast right now, right? We are in 2 different countries in a 2 different time zone, but we can do this completely like not being in a studio, not worrying about this crazy audio setup or anything like that. And just make this work. Is kudos to the tech that has really made this possible. You just need to log into a browser and hit record and you're on, so it's pretty novel. I think it's a point to kind of appreciate what we have at the same time, like have a some sort of boundaries on that too, in some sense. Like, Apple kind of tries its own way to kind of do this focus mode thing. So like, hey, focus on your family. So turn on your family time and focus on work and just be on focus time. So I think the next generation who's going to take over the world, will have a better equipped mind on distractions and this constant connectivity, and they will be better equipped for that kind of stuff. Because I think our generation, we probably saw the tech taking over our day-to-day lives, and for next generation, they're born with it. So they will have a completely different mindset.
Probably a lot better at setting boundaries around things like that, because they don't know what it was like to not have it. And kudos to Apple for making it all possible with their iBook.
Yeah, starting from the iBook to where we are today, it's always pretty exciting to kind of see that transition. And the next version would be this, Vision Pro. Probably will be talking 1 year from now.
Awesome. Well, Garish, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Talking about the past and future of all things internet. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week in London.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Frontier Podcast powered by Gun.io. We drop 2 episodes per week, so if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe on your platform of choice and come hang out with us again next week and bring all your internet friends. If you have questions or recommendations, just shoot us a Twitter DM at The Frontier Pod, and we'll see you next week.